Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping ourselves into the strategic cockpit. We're heading straight into the high-stakes, high-pressure world of international rugby.
Yep.
For the next few minutes, you and I are basically acting as strategists for Manu Samoa, who are right in the thick of it, building their core squad for the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia.
And this isn't just a search for, a single star player. The sources we've been looking at make it crystal clear. The mission isn't about finding the best number 9.
Right.
The mandate is to construct what their coaching staff is calling the 9-axis.
I love that phrase, the 9-axis. It just sounds, it implies depth, right? And redundancy.
It does.
Because if they want to succeed in the heat of a World Cup, they can't rely on just one style or one star player. They need options. They need a plan B, a plan C ready to go the second something breaks down.
Exactly. We've seen so many Tier 2 nations crash out of World Cups, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked that tactical diversity when things got tight.
And the need for this whole axis idea, it was really thrown into sharp relief by that qualification tournament in Dubai, wasn't it? Back in November 2025.
Oh, that was the crucible, for sure.
That whole campaign, which, ended with their qualification, it really served as a genuine diagnostic stress test. They got the job done, but some of those matches, especially that draw against Belgium, they showed all the cracks.
It was a fascinating case study. So the team is now assessing 5 candidates to build out this multifaceted axis. You've got Jonathan Tomatane, Milani Matavao, Ariya Taranari.
The core 3.
And then the critical depth options, Joel Lamb, and the really interesting outlier, Connor Tupai. Our job is to map out how all these pieces need to fit together if they're going to survive Australia in 2027.
Okay, so let's start by framing the challenge. Before we even get into the players, we have to understand the environment. What are the specific demands of a World Cup in Australia that shape who Samoa even needs at halfback?
Well, it all starts with what the sources are calling the hard track paradigm.
Okay.
We're talking Australian conditions in October, November. So think firm, lightning fast playing surfaces and dry weather. This just creates an environment for extremely high velocity rugby.
High velocity. For the listener who might not be watching Super Rugby every week, what does that actually translate to in terms of the physical demand on a halfback?
Even 2 things directly. First, the halfback's decision window is it's dramatically compressed.
Less time to think.
Way less.
Yeah.
The time they have to choose between a pass, a run, or a kick is seconds shorter than it would be in, say, a damp European stadium. And second, the aerobic demands are enormous. The ball and play time trends way higher than in the Northern Hemisphere. You need a massive engine.
So speed and sustained fitness are absolutely non-negotiable, which connects right into that big global tactical shift, doesn't it? The need for lightning quick ball or LQB.
Sub 3-second ruck speed.
So the number 9 isn't just a distributor anymore. They're the ones setting the clock for the entire team.
They are the gatekeepers of tempo. And if they stutter, the entire attack just grinds to a halt. And this velocity requirement has to align perfectly with the doctrine from head coach Lamalu Tuziata-Pisi, who was appointed back in April 2025.
And what's PC's core philosophy? What's he building?
It's built on 2 main pillars: discipline, smarts, and forward dominance. PC's whole game plan is to build the Samoan game on a robust, aggressive set piece. They rely on these massive veteran forwards guys like Scott Sioner mentioned specifically.
So the halfback's job is to be the general for that heavy pack, making sure their effort isn't wasted by sloppy service.
Exactly. And that leads us to this fascinating kind of non-traditional metric. The sources highlight the defensive side of things. It comes down to player weight.
Yeah, I found this really interesting. I admit I wouldn't immediately think of the halfback's weight as a major strategic asset, but the analysis argues that collision weight is non-negotiable for a number 9.
It is utterly critical, and here's why. And we can get specific for you here. The halfback has to defend that boot or guard space, that little channel right next to the ruck where opposing forwards love to charge.
The danger zone.
The absolute danger zone. So a larger halfback, like the incumbent Jonathan Tomatane at 86 kilos, he can absorb that contact. He can hold his ground.
And that has a knock-on effect, right?
A massive domino effect. It allows the loose forwards, your flankers, your number 8, to fan out and cover the midfield, the wider channels. They can trust that the 9 is holding the core.
So what happens if you have a lighter player in that spot, like Matavao?
Well, if you look at a lighter guy, like Milani Matavao at 73 kilos, the data shows this is a huge defensive liability. That lightness forces the flankers, who should be covering wide, to contract, to come in and protect the ruck.
They have to narrow their whole defensive line.
They do. all to support the 9. And that, in turn, creates huge exploitable space out wide for the opposition to attack. It's a structural flaw introduced by just one man's physical profile.
That's a great way to put it. How one guy's size can just ripple through the entire team's structure. Now, beyond the weight, Coach PC also has this non-negotiable mandate on what he calls the kicking economy.
Territory is king for PC. He demands absolute precision. Specifically, he wants the halfback executing high-hanging contestables.
High kicks that can be competed for.
We're talking 4 or more seconds of hang time. It takes incredible power and technique, but the purpose is purely tactical. It gives the Samoan wingers, who are phenomenal athletes, maximum time to get under the ball and compete for it.
Turning a defensive exit into an attacking chance deep in their territory.
That's the plan.
This all sounds like a system designed for pure power and structure, but one that desperately needs an escape valve for when that power game stalls.
Precisely. And that necessity was just perfectly demonstrated in that qualification crucible in Dubai. That's where all the real-world data came from.
Right, so the tournament gave them the hard numbers.
Yeah.
What did those 3 key matches tell us about the current halfback axis?
We saw 2 clear patterns, one showing the potential and the other showing the existing weaknesses. First, the match against Brazil, that 48-10 win, that showed the ideal Tomatine and Matavao partnership.
How so?
Tomatine provided all the structural stability, the precise distribution for the first hour. He just created space.
And then the impact specialist arrived.
Yes. When the defense was tiring, Matavao comes on and just injects chaos. Pure speed. He was dynamic, scored an explosive try late in the game that just demoralized them. The insight there is that the axis can switch from structure to chaos. That's a powerful weapon.
Okay, then came the physical arm wrestle against Namibia.
Yeah, the 26-8 win over Namibia was all about game management. Tomatine proved his value as a match winner in those tight contests. His try in the 4th minute was the defining moment.
The dummy and power over.
Right, a subtle dummy powered over, and it just settled the team's nerves immediately. It forced Namibia to chase the game from the start. That highlighted his unique physicality in the group.
But the decisive match, and maybe the most important lesson, was that 13-13 draw with Belgium. It got them qualification, but it also exposed the critical vulnerability this 9-axis is trying to solve.
Belgium was the hard lesson. They used this highly disruptive, low-error defensive strategy that just completely stifled Samoa's running rhythm.
The power game stalled.
Totally stalled. Suddenly, the Samoan attack was disjointed. They were struggling for any kind of continuity.
So without that primary running platform, they were just lost.
I lacked a plan B. The immediate glaring takeaway was the need for a reliable, very tactical kicking game. For better territorial options when you face a defensive stalemate like that one match defined the search for the other candidates.
Let's get into those core candidates then, starting with Jonathan Tomatine, the incumbent general. He's really locked down that starting role, and his profile is, well, it's staggering.
He's 31, playing for Moana Pacifica, and he's right in his prime. But his statistical profile is the bedrock of this entire system. The sources recorded his domestic pass accuracy at an elite 99%.
99.
From 168 touches in the 2025 season, that mechanical efficiency is the antidote to the fatigue and pressure they're expecting at the World Cup.
Okay, 99%. That level of efficiency is almost machine-like. But doesn't that raise a flag? I mean, is he just prioritizing the safe, simple play over the high-risk, high-reward stuff that actually breaks a defense open? Where's the aggression, the surprise?
That is the essential trade-off, and the coaches know it. They rely on his 86-kilo frame, his structure, his ability to act almost as a 9th forward, and his deep synergy with the Moana Pacifica forward pack. That's another huge advantage.
Because it minimizes what you call the integration tax.
Can you clarify that? Integration tax sounds a bit like insider jargon.
Absolutely. The integration tax is just the performance cost, the tiny loss in timing, speed, and communication that happens when players from different clubs with different calls and habits have to integrate quickly for international.
Got it.
Because Tomatine and his pack play together week in, week out, that cost is almost zero. But, and it's a big but, the major risk is his injury history from 2024. Durability is everything for him.
Okay, now for the counterpoint. Malani Matavao, the premier impact specialist. He really does sound like the perfect plan B for Tomatine.
Matavao, who'll be turning 32 late in 2027, is the undisputed heartbeat of Samoan flair. He is the premier impact specialist. His key asset is that explosive acceleration and what the sources call the clutch gene.
You just have to think back to his match-winning Super Rugby try against the Highlanders.
I remember that game. It was incredible.
He didn't just score. It was the dying minutes. They were trailing, and he single-handedly charged down a kick, regathered, and scored. The opposition bench just collapsed in disbelief. He thrives on chaos.
So he's the perfect closer. You bring him on for the last 25, 30 minutes against tired legs.
He is. But we circle right back to that central structural problem. His size. At 73 kilos, he's a massive defensive target in that boot space. When Matavao is on the field, the flankers have to contract. It changes the whole defensive geometry instantly.
So you can only really deploy him when the opposition attack is already fatigued.
You have to mitigate that risk. Exactly.
That tactical hole brings us neatly to candidate number 3, Ariatara Inari, who the sources are calling the tactical pivot. This is where Samoa solves the problem that Belgium exposed.
Inari, age 30, is fascinating because he provides the solution to the system's biggest weakness. He's a product of that disciplined, high IQ Crusaders Academy.
You're right.
And crucially, his recent transfer to the Hurricanes shows a very deliberate intent to refine his tactical kicking and game management under the highest pressure.
This must be that Roygaard effect you mentioned before we started. What does that actually mean?
It's the philosophy that prioritizes territorial control over just sheer speed of pass. You can think of the Roygaard effect as maximizing tactical output with minimum wasted possession. It's about using accurate, contestable kicks to force opponents to play from deep inside their own half.
Instead of just trying to run over them every time.
Exactly. Inari is actively learning how to run a complex, high-pressure territorial battle. He's seeking out that high-level exposure to close the gap that Belgium exposed.
So his role is the insurance policy, but with massive upside.
That's a perfect way to put it. The stats show his high involvement 5th for passes, 8th for try assists in Super Rugby. If Samoa find themselves in a tactical stalemate, or if it's wet, Inari offers the highest ceiling for the control and discipline they need. He is the vital piece of depth that makes the 9-axis truly diversified.
Which leaves us with the 2 crucial outliers, necessary for squad depth and the long-term plan. Let's look at the future first. Joel Lamb.
Joel Lamb is the future general. At 25, he comes from that same Crusaders development pathway as Inari. He represents the long-term succession plan for the 2031 World Cup cycle.
He's on a steep learning curve.
Very steep. And right now, he provides competent, reliable injury cover. He's projected as the solid third-choice halfback. He's absorbing the organizational smarts from Tomatine and the technical discipline from Inari.
And finally, we have the ultimate specialist, Connor Tupai. He sounds like a true curveball.
Tupai, who's 27, is a situational specialist playing in Major League Rugby. But his most defining feature is his atypical physical profile. He stands at a towering 1.87 meters. That's 6'2", and weighs 89 kilos.
6'2". That is unprecedented for a halfback. You almost never see players that tall in that position anywhere in the world. What's the tactical advantage there besides just reach?
It provides 2 key things. First, he has a massive unique advantage in the aerial game, specifically charge downs. When an opposing fly half tries a box kick or a clearing kick, Tupai's reach and his ability to block those lanes, it forces the opposition to change their whole technique and trajectory. It gets in their heads.
So he's a psychological barrier as much as a physical one?
He is. He's a very specific, specialized countermeasure against teams who rely heavily on tactical kicking. And on top of that, his professional schooling was in England, so he offers that Northern Hemisphere understanding of territory management that PT values so highly.
But there's a huge drawback to where he's playing now, isn't there?
A significant handicap. The MLR just operates at a much lower velocity than Super Rugby or the international game. If he's suddenly thrown into a high-tempo World Cup match against a Tier 1 nation, well, the adjustment would be substantial.
So he's not a core piece, but a break glass option for a very specific scenario.
Exactly.
This has been a true deep dive into strategic construction. So to wrap it up, let's just summarize the final deployment strategy. It's so clear the solution isn't one player, but the harmonious operation of the whole ecosystem.
Absolutely. The final ranking places Tomatine as the clear starter at rank 1. The coach's focus has to be on durability and workload management.
Right.
Matavao, the impact, is at rank 2, with the focus there on preserving his explosive speed for the end of matches. And Inari, the challenger, is rank 3. He must be integrated into every single international window to maximize that tactical upside.
The success of Manu Samoa really does hinge on balancing Tomateen's precision with Matavau's chaos and Inari's tactical sophistication. They need to prove they can switch between these systems flawlessly under extreme fatigue.
And that takes us right back to the question you raised earlier, that underlying tension in Pilocy's system. We've established that Tomateen's 99% passing accuracy is the mechanical bedrock of the team. But this raises the final provocative thought that Manu Samoa absolutely must address before the World Cup.
And that question for you to consider is this. In a high-pressure, lightning-quick ball environment like Australia, does achieving this incredible level of mechanical perfection, this 99% efficiency, come at a cost? Does it breed a reluctance to attempt those high-risk, high-reward plays?
And does that ultimate focus on safety and structure, that avoidance of risk, does that prevent Samoa from finding the unconventional openings they'll need to beat the very best Tier 1 defenses in a must-win knockout match?
It's the challenge for every coaching team, isn't it? How much structure do you impose before you choke out the creativity you need to win? Finding that balance between precision and necessary chaos will define their World Cup.
Couldn't have said it better.
A fascinating strategic dilemma. Thank you for helping us unpack this incredible deep dive into the selection world of Manu Samoa rugby. We'll see you next time.